Good, that's good call. All right, well, I call this regular city council meeting of Tuesday, February 11th, 2025 of the Troutdale City Council to order. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Glenn, if you would lead it.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Kendall, please call the roll.
Councilor White.
Here.
Councilor Davidson.
Here.
Councilor Leamy.
Here.
Councilor Allen.
Here.
Councilor Wen.
Present.
Mayor Ritma.
Here. All right. Ray, is there an agenda update?
No, Mr. Mayor, it is as written tonight.
All right, well, we will begin with public comment. And public comment on non-agenda and consent agenda items is welcome at this time. Public comment on agenda items will be taken at the time the item is considered. Public comment should be directed to the presiding officer and limited to matters of community interest or related to matters which may or could come before council. Each speaker shall be limited to 5 minutes for each agenda item unless a different amount of time is allowed by the presiding officer with the consent of council. The council and mayor should avoid immediate or protracted responses to citizen comments. So at this time, I open the meeting to public comment. We'll start with those participating on Zoom. Is there anyone who wishes to address the council in public comment?
Mayor Paul Wilcox, Troutdale.
Yes, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'll start with a short one for now. Since this is a non-agenda and consent agenda time, I want to address consent agenda item 4.2, the resolution making significant changes to the membership of PSWG. There was one position removed, one position added, and a transfer from one position to another. This much change warrants a public explanation beyond consent agenda approval. Not everyone is going to track down the actual resolution or even know where to find it. Decisions and recommendations made by the PSWG will affect every Troutdale resident, so it's important who is a member and how and why they were selected. I request that the PSWG resolution be removed from the consent agenda and the changes explained. I also saw that the municipal code language surrounding consent agenda hasn't been revised or updated since 1994. It's long overdue for a refresh.
All right. Did you have another item, Paul?
That would be on an agenda item.
Okay, all right. Anyone else on Zoom who wishes to address the council under public comment? All right, I'll shift to the public that's in the room. Anyone wishes to address the council on the public comment item?
Good evening. Matt Lamy, Troutdale citizen. I don't believe this is discussing an agenda item, but I would like to address the process of filling the vacancy, not the agenda item of vacancy itself. I believe in our current situation, the method chosen was inefficient and outdated. While Section 28 of the city charter tasks the council with filling the vacancy, it leaves the process on how to make that decision up to the council. Under our old system of voting, each councillor ran for a specific position. This resulted in a group of winners and a group of losers. The winners took their place on council, and the losers were all on equal footing. So a process like the one used to make the decision that will be made later tonight was necessary. It's a process that still works for vacancies that come up midterm, but it is also a process that doesn't make much sense and seems to potentially clash, if not with the letter, but the spirit of Section 23 of the city charter when used directly after an election cycle. 2 years ago, at a meeting very similar to the one tonight, concerns were raised about the process being used to fill a vacancy that was not able to be addressed on the ballot, and as far as I can tell, In the time since, nothing has been done to address those concerns. It has been known since August of 2024, at the filing deadline, that there would be 5 vacancies after the November election, since both candidates for mayor were current councilors. Therefore, one would have to resign unless the statistical anomaly of a write-in candidate won the office of mayor, but nothing was done to address the concerns or prepare for this eventuality. It's been known since November exactly where the 11 candidates and any additional write-in votes ranked, and the will of the voters in terms of those results. And again, nothing was done to address the concerns raised the last time this situation arose. At the January 14th, 2025 meeting, I was of the impression that due to the language in section 23 of the city charter, the candidate with the next highest vote tally, in this case Paul Wilcox, would be appointed. When I raised those concerns with members of the current council ahead of the meeting, I felt they were dismissed. The decision was made without any council discussion to ignore the 7 remaining candidates who had just run, their filings with the county, their voters' guide statements, their campaigning, all data about their rankings, and the voice of the constituency in favor of opening out applications to anyone who wanted to be part of the council without having to do any of that work, while at the same time asking those previous candidates to jump through yet another hoop, doing just what has been done in the past, regardless of whether it was the best option or even appropriate. I think it is telling that of the 7 remaining candidates, only 2 chose to apply to this process. I've been asked to be patient and let the council work to fix these issues, but I feel like I have to keep pushing so that we don't end up sitting here again in 2 years talking about the same issue yet again. I request that whenever possible, in the future, this council should defer to the voice of the voters, abide by the city charter, and apply the process in section 23 of that charter to vacancies created during or as a result of elections, rather than creating new processes that circumvent the citizens. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the council chamber wish to address the council under public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment and move on to item number 3, a resolution selecting a new councilor to fill a vacancy on the city council. And there is a resolution in the packet with a blank that can be filled in with the Zach Andrews as the consensus of the council, not unanimous, but 5 of the 6 who voted selected Zach. And so the resolution, which is item 3.1, is before us with the name Zach Andrews filled in the blank on the second page. I'd be glad to hear any comment from councilors at this time. Yes, Jeffrey.
I want to acknowledge I know Mr. Wilcox brought this to our attention the last time we had to do this 2 years ago, about the process. And it, sometimes hindsight is 20/20, in that, gosh, sometimes these things make sense after the fact, and you just don't think about them in the moment. And we knew that, we knew as a council that one of either myself or Mayor Ritma would be sitting in that seat, leaving that position open. And I think probably at that point in time, we probably could have done something to allow the voters to just and let that last person in. We didn't, and that is our fault for kind of going past that. I realize that, again, I will just apologize for thinking about that after the fact. It didn't even really occur to me. I think that we, as a council, Mayor Ripna, at some point within the next 2 years, potentially we could look at this and do something about it for the future. If we want to make an amendment to our city charter if it's an obvious vacancy that's going to be there, letting the voters take care of that. I think that would be a great idea. And again, I personally just apologize for not thinking of it and bringing it forward. So I think it's something we can look at in the next 2 years, not something we need to do today, tomorrow. But we can improve our process and let the citizens have their voice be heard there. That being said, I don't have really anything else to say.
Anyone else up on the council? I mean, my feeling is this is a fair process. The last time this came up, and you know, I guess I'm expressing some disagreement that there's anything unfair about doing it this way. We've done it this way for a long time. But in the case where there were, I think the last time there were only 4 people who ran and 3 were selected, something like that. No, somebody was moving out of town. Anyway, it was a bit confused, and it would have necessitated the losing candidate, the last place finisher, the one who got the least votes from the people, if we adopted a position that whoever's next in line gets selected. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having a little breathing space, seeing how the council is formed. Anyway, I think this is a perfectly fair process. Yes, Jesse.
I'd just like to acknowledge what Councilor One said. I was surprised in the process that we wouldn't just go down to the next highest vote here for replacing council members. So there was a little surprise on my part, and that's kind of due to my inexperience. So I just kind of want to acknowledge what Councilor One said. It might be beneficial to look at how we do it in the future.
All right, but even if it was the last place finisher, somebody who came in last?
Yeah, but that's what the people are doing for.
All right, well.
If I might,
we
Mr.
should
Mayor,
debate.
I'm not sure that it would comply with state law. It might be allowed under home rule powers, but the vacancy doesn't occur until after the person becomes mayor, which is the following year, which is after the election. There has to be there's supposed to be a vacancy under the state election laws at the time of the election or 90 days before, depending on which statute you're looking at. So there's a couple of them. So I'm not sure it's possible, but it might be to say that in an obvious case, but I'm not sure there is an obvious case because, you know, what if there's a write-in candidate who wins? That, you know, that would be the non-obvious decision happening. So it's a little dicier than it sounds on its face, but it might be possible.
I just think having a discussion about it in our open forum where we all get to have a voice and Ed would probably be more than happy to educate us on what we can and can't do in those situations. But I think it's worth just a conversation so that people know that, you know, we're doing our due diligence to try to make sure that their voices are respected. Even if it's the last place person, because those are the people that put in the time and effort to run, regardless if they put in any, you know, they do anything or not. They went down there, they went and did that. They were wanting to stand up for themselves and their community. So again, I don't think it necessarily makes a difference. We're gonna still pick a new councilor to fill this vacancy, but I just wanted us to think about it for the future.
Well, I'm always up for discussions, so yes.
One has, you know, it's really up to the person that, if they want to run even, because in this case, the 5th place person didn't even join this process that we just did tonight. So automatically given that position might not be the best idea because things might have changed in that person's life, or, you know, it's a big commitment to join the city council. So my preference is, it's not ideal. Of course, it's always best to have someone win an election appointed by the voters. And Troutdale, you know, our town is a pretty savvy group, and they usually know who they want and who they're voting for, is what I've I've seen. And by picking us, they entrust us as a body to pick the next best person. And I think we did that tonight. That's all.
Anything else up here? Yes, John?
You said something there and I lost my mind there, but because of relationship, I knew this was coming before us tonight. If I had at least one person, maybe two people. And my intention was to push that in the next 2 years, we would at least discuss this and maybe make a change. I mean, I would like to see public vote play into it. You know,
Understood. It sounds like we're going to be having this discussion.
Right.
Anyone else on the council? All right, we are about to take a vote on a motion to a resolution selecting Zach Andrews as the appointee of the council of the vacancy, to fill the vacancy. And before that, I would like to open this to public comment, if there's any. So I'll start with the folks on Zoom. Anyone wish to address the council before we vote on this resolution?
Mayor Rima Paul Wilcox.
Sure.
Okay, I'm afraid I'm not quite as succinct as Matt Leamy was, but I do appreciate his comments. So I better get to it because it's a little bit lengthy. Where's my glasses? Okay. Going to start by addressing the resolution language. Under point number 1, section 27A4 states, the office of the mayor or councilor becomes vacant if the incumbent resigns. Under point number 5, section 28A states, a vacancy in the office of councilor shall be filled by appointment by a majority of the council. Neither makes any reference to calling for an application process. Under point number 4, the applications are not in fact in the regular meeting packet, but in the work session packet. Also under point number 5, it states, the person selected shall complete the term of Councilor Ripma. In fact, the person appointed to replace Mayor Kite on council in 2009 did not complete the term. First off, I'd like to start with a short history review. Since the 2000 election, there's been an incumbent midterm councilor running for mayor in every election since 2012. This means that a councilor position vacancy occurring was a known possibility. Until this year, a midterm councilor had only been elected mayor once in 2008. Of course, since both mayoral candidates at this election were midterm councilors, a councilor vacancy subject to appointment was guaranteed. As a side note, Lake Oswego has resigned to run to ensure that the vacancy created by a midterm councilor being elected mayor is subject to election by the voters. Back in the 70s, when top 3 election of councilors was in effect, councilor vacancies occurring around election time were as a result of an election were filled by the next highest vote getter. That wouldn't be a viable option under election by position. However, under the top vote getters method, the voters' preference hierarchy is already in place. More recent practice under both elect by position and top 3 has been to solicit for applicants, whether election candidates or not. In fact, the election time appointees in 2009, 2011, and 2023 were all non-candidates. It's also worth noting that when citizens had an opportunity to weigh in on the 2 most recent appointees, they were both rejected by the voters. Now to address the current situation. If the vote totals had been reversed between myself and Councilor Davidson, as a councilor, my staunch position would have been to appoint him to the mayoral created council vacancy with no further discussion required as the voters' next most favored candidate. I would give precedence to the voters' numerical support over that of 6 council members. Of course, expressing this opinion prior to the council's decision on how to appoint would have appeared extremely self-serving. As some of you may recall, I took a similar position when the vacancy created by the election of non-resident Nick Boone needed to be filled. Rather than appointing the remaining candidate, a non-candidate was appointed. In fact, the candidate who received 2,604 citizen votes received absolutely 0 council support. Then and now, the council shouldn't be putting their collective thumbs on the scale when there is a publicly supported candidate. Any consideration of a non-candidate applicant would be a further insult to the voters. I'd suggest that you ask the non-candidate applicants why they weren't on the ballot last November. None of them had any voter support whatsoever. Fitting summary for all the above is provided by an excerpt from the October 21, 1976 Gresham Outlook article by Sharon Nesbitt. The reporter states regarding a pending vacancy due to a resignation, the council traditionally fills vacancies by appointing an unsuccessful candidate to the post. It goes on to quote Mayor Sturgis. We're not required to do that, said Sturgis, but after all, it's an unpaid job. After the election, we have a list of people who have indicated their willingness to serve. Of course, this was when top 3 was in effect. In closing, I would encourage appointment of the next highest vote getter applicant by having a level of voter support entirely lacking with the non-candidate applicants. I'd also recommend that the council take a serious look at how election-created vacancies are filled so as to not continue to disenfranchise voters when a 2-year position is being filled. A charter amendment wouldn't be unreasonable. Thank you for your patience.
All right. Anyone else on Zoom wishes to address the council before we vote on this resolution?
This is Zach Andrews, City of Troutdale. Am I able to speak?
Yes.
All right. Well, I just wanted to thank the previous commenters on their comments. I think it's important that we keep our city council and city staff accountable. And, it's a question and comment that I was asking myself, actually, when I was, being encouraged to look into this role. And I will just say, having been in these planning commission and chair roles on the committees for the city, have been very involved with the city up to this point and will continue to serve the best I can over these next 2 years. And I ask that you continue to keep myself and the rest of the councilors accountable. And I would definitely be open to having more discussions as we go along to see how we can better serve the community, if that is a perceived need there, for sure. So just wanted to say I appreciate you guys and your comments, and we'll give you back the floor.
Thank you, Zach. Anyone else on Zoom wish to address the council? How about in the council chambers? Anyone care to address the council on this before we vote on this resolution? All right. The resolution is before us. It's
Actually, someone needs to move in second.
yes, to appoint, the resolution is to appoint Zach Andrews to the vacancy.
I move we adopt a resolution selecting a new councilor to fill the vacancy on the city council with Zach Andrews.
I'll second.
All right, I think Carol won that race. Kenda, please call a roll.
Councilor White,
Yes.
Councilor Davidson,
Yes.
Councilor Leamy,
Yes.
Councilor Allen,
Yes.
Councilor One,
Yes.
Mayor Ritma.
Yes. And welcome, Zach. I'm assuming you're still there because I see your name on the screen.
I am, yes.
We will arrange to have a swearing in, I don't know, before the start of the next council meeting, which is
We're planning for 6:45.
6:45. Please invite all your friends and relatives and anyone else. And we'll have a proper ceremony to swear you in, and welcome. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. Now, there was a public comment requesting that 4.2 come off the consent agenda. I believe a councilor would need to make such a request. It's the resolution that we just discussed at the last council meeting, saying exactly what we were going to do. But does anyone on the council wish to pull 4.2 from the consent agenda? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
All right, 4.1, a resolution recognizing the completion of the public improvements associated with Sweetbriar Hideaway Subdivision, accepting them into the city's fixed asset system. And 4.2, a resolution modifying the ad hoc public safety service delivery working group. I move adoption.
Is there? All right, Carol seconded. Call the roll, please.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Davidson,
Yes.
Counselor Laney,
Yes.
Counselor Allen,
Yes.
Counselor One,
Yes.
Mayor Whitmer.
Yes. All right, moving on to 5.1, a request from Mount Hood Community College for Troutdale to be a sponsor of the Mount Hood Jazz Festival.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just give a little context.
Yes, Ray, please.
The Mount Hood Festival Jazz has asked each year for several years for a contribution from the city. The city is, of course, not obligated to give the Jazz Festival anything. However, the council in the last 2 years has given $5,000 in 2023, $6,500 last year. And if the council is going to tend to want to give some more money this year, it has to be by a motion on the record because it's not a budgeted amount and the auditors say the council had to vote to approve it. That's all I'd ask, and if you're going to give money, is make sure it's a motion on the record.
All right. Please, you have the floor.
All right, great, thank you. Up and running. Okay, thank you so much for letting me come speak about the Mount Hood Jazz Festival. I have a presentation here that is going through Zoom and is also on the screen behind you as well, just kind of showing a little bit about the festival. Even though I have asked in the last few years, I think it's good to give a little bit of perspective about the work that the festival is doing for the East County community. So my name is Dan Davey. I'm the jazz director at Mount Hood Community College, and I'm the festival director for the Mount Hood Jazz Festival. Many know that the Mount Hood Jazz Festival started in the early 80s. It was a professional jazz festival that brought in some of the top jazz artists of the industry, and a 3-day festival in August. It was started through the Mount Hood Jazz Association and the city of Gresham in conjunction with the foundation at Mount Hood Community College, with the goal to promote the appreciation of jazz as a unique art form. In its height, it drew crowds of 30,000 people. Sonny Rollins performed there, Tito Puente, B.B. King, Arturo Sandoval. And in the early 2000s, it moved off campus and was held in downtown Gresham for a number of years up until about 2014. At the same time, and actually running a little bit longer, the college had been running what was called the Northwest Jazz Band Festival. And this was an educational festival that brought schools, middle schools and high schools from all over the Pacific Northwest to come perform and compete, get adjudicated, have feedback given, attend master classes and concerts from professionals. And that has been going on for, it says 43 years, but I think it's actually 47 years. I was looking the other day. So that was an educational festival that had been running for a long time in conjunction, that was run through the music program itself. And then in 2019, the former association of the Mount Hood Jazz Festival signed over the rights to the name to the music department at Mount Hood. And with that, I said, what am I going to do with this? So what I did is I took the festival that we had already been running, which was the Northwest Jazz Band Festival, and expanded it out to be something that maybe engages the community more. We do concerts around Troutdale and Gresham, East County, as well as expanding a little bit into Portland this year as well. And bringing the community to community businesses and supporting venues that support live music, and also bringing more artists that those students who are attending can have more exposure to. So we've created this educational scaffolding where you can, as a middle schooler who's learning an instrument and learning to play jazz music, can come and perform, get feedback, see high school musicians playing, see college musicians playing, see professional musicians playing, and then attend master classes in a smaller room where they're learning from those musicians what they were doing when they were performing on stage. So there's just like an immersion into all aspects of this genre. So this was set to launch. It came to us in 2019 and in 2020 with the new name, but COVID prevented everything from happening. And in 2021, we did a live stream festival from the College Theater on campus. In 2022, we launched just a small version, observing COVID precautions and guidelines. And that was, we used the Yoshida Estate as a venue for our professional concerts for that, which didn't turn out to be a great venue for it. So in 2023, we opened the festival up to full capacity, all on campus for Friday and Saturday, and then around the community on Sunday. I do have a short little glimpse from our 2024 festival that I'd love to share with you. That shows some of the master classes. You'll see students that are participating in those workshops. You'll see students performing. You'll see some of the professionals performing. One of my favorite moments in this short clip is in our college theater. The trumpet player Etienne Charles and his band had the entire theater, about 500 people, standing on their feet and dancing to jazz music. And you can't see me on the side of the stage crying because of how beautiful of a moment it was, but you'll see them bouncing on this, and hopefully this will work. I clicked, and it didn't work. But you can imagine what it looks like. Well, that's strange. Well, I can find it on YouTube on our page, but I'll keep going. So we do this as soon as we announced the change of the name to Mount Hood Jazz Festival from the Northwest Jazz Band Festival. There was so much support from the community. I feel like a sleeping giant was awoken, and something that was such a huge identity for this area was given life again. And we are fortunate to partner with a lot of sponsors and municipalities to help make this happen. And a lot of this support goes into providing opportunities not only for all those students who are in attendance, which is about 1,800 to 2,000 students, or just shy of 2,000 students, but also for the community, because all of these events are open to the community as well. We have 6 student stages throughout the weekend, and 1 professional stage on campus, and then the multiple ones around the town that I mentioned. So as was mentioned earlier, Troutdale has been a supporter the last few years, and we're grateful for that support. We have additional support and sponsors from the community, food sponsors, vendors who bring food trucks to the campus as well. There's a shot of our theater packed with students excited to learn. We have about 80 school ensembles who participate. That's 16 middle school jazz bands, 48 high school big bands, 16 high school jazz combos, smaller groups like quartets and quintets. about 50 music educators and several teachers who are learning how to be music educators, 1,600 to 1,800 students, and potentially as many family friends in attendance. We're working on being able to track the family and friends that come with students because all those events are free. So it's difficult to track that, but we're trying that for the 2025 festival. 12 professional concerts, lots of tickets sold. We have a 500-seat theater, and last year for our festival, each of those concerts in that theater were full. And connections and collaboration sponsorships with 35 businesses or municipalities. We're really proud of this festival, the new format. I feel that it is something that has more longevity and a more sustainable format than the old festival did. I think it's something that gives to our community. It supports musicians, it deepens the arts cultural aspect of East County, and brings world-renowned musicians to our community and people of our community to our local businesses. This is just a pitch for volunteers. If there's anybody in the room or on Zoom who would like to volunteer for the festival, it takes more than just me to make it happen. We have a great lineup this year. All this information is on our website, mhcc.edu/jazzfestival. And those are our top 3 headliners. Gary Bartz is part of the Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. He played with Miles Davis. He's part of a generation of jazz that we're losing connections with now. And he's 82 years old. He was just named a NEA Jazz Master in 2024, so we're excited to be able to bring him out. Ingrid Jensen in the middle and Nicholas Payton are our other 2 headliners, both fantastic trumpet players. So our last year's sponsor level was 6,500, and I have 2 asks. One, the ask to again support the festival this year for 2025. And the second, the potential to consider an increased donation of 7,500 at that level sponsorship, if you would consider. And I thank you again for the time today.
Well, very impressive. Questions from the council? Or comments?
I feel like I always speak up, so I will. Thanks for coming, Dan.
Thanks.
Although my dad said you were maybe gonna play for us.
I did bring my trumpet. I figured it's the same presentation
We didn't
every
get a
year,
video,
but
I digress. At least that would be fun. Thanks for coming. I feel that this, I know it doesn't, it's not always directly in the Troutdale, city of Troutdale, but Mountain Community College affects a lot of people in the city of Troutdale. And I feel sponsoring music events is something I feel passionate about. And I support you and support what you're doing and building it back up. I just remember, just as like a thing, growing up, my aunt and uncle always came out, but this was one event, the Mountain Jazz Festival, they always came out and we would go listen to it. And I just kind of remember that as a child. So growing that back is a cool thing.
thank you. Yeah, I will add too that we added a show in Troutdale this year. Councilor White, I had you in mind when I did this, with the new Wayfinder location that just went in is beautiful and perfect for this. So we have a Sunday show that's going to go in there, in addition to a Sunday morning one at the Troutdale station.
Awesome.
Anyone else up here? Sounds good. And you're saying there isn't a budget item for this? We would need to
No,
make a
that's why we
motion.
need to have an official vote, because you haven't previously authorized money for this type of expenditure. That's not an opinion on whether you should or shouldn't, it's just that for
Yeah.
record-keeping purposes, we have to be able to make sure the council has approved changes from the budget.
Well, sit tight and let me invite public comment at this time. Anyone out on Zoom who's participating in the meeting, care to address the council before we make a decision on this matter? Seeing none, is there anyone in the council chambers? Rich, please come forward. Since there's 2 seats, just have the other one.
If you could move the mic.
Just move the mic over.
Great, sure.
I talk softly. So, as I was going over the material for today's meeting, I was asking myself, well, why would I support Jazz Festival for Mount Hood Community College? I reflected on that today, and as I reflected, I came to realize my wife graduated from Mount Hood. My son did. As an Oracle DBA, I helped teach SQL there. And we have kids from our high school that take classes at Mount Hood Community College. We even share land with Mount Hood Community College. And so I'm thinking about that, and they're very much an integral part of our community. Many of our residents are tightly tied to Mount Hood Community College. They provide a service for our community and our local businesses. And so I do support this after thinking about it. I think it's a valuable thing. I think it makes life better for all, including our residents. So just want to get that opinion out there. Thank you.
All right, for the record, I didn't ask you to state your name and the city you live in.
Rich Allen, Troutdale.
All right. Thanks, Rich. Anyone else in the council chambers wish to address the council on this matter? All right. Well, the matter's before us. Does anyone wish to make a motion or further discussion?
Well, budget's gonna be a huge issue for us in the next couple of years, with the police, the fire contracts going up, being expensive. Potentially, having to raise taxes for our citizens, which nobody's gonna wanna pay for that. But something like this would bring monetary value to our businesses, bring people into the community. And I have a hard time finding fault in that, so it's something that I would be interested in supporting.
Anyone else comment?
Dan, do you guys have, or you probably don't, but do you have any idea of the financial impact on the community from this event potentially? Or is there potential for that, maybe think about that down the road?
Yeah, that's something we can look into. I don't know.
Yeah.
Other than like just partnerships and
Yeah.
the businesses that we work with.
Sure.
I'm not sure beyond that.
Okay. But you are adding shows in Troutdale this year specifically, those 2 locations?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I've inquired about others. I just haven't confirmed them yet.
Okay.
All right, yes, Glenn.
Yeah, I appreciate your willingness to do something specifically for Troutdale.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, it was $6,500 last year. Can you just give us an outline of possibly what that money was used for? Or does it just go into a big pool of money?
Yeah, it's a, I mean, the artist fees for the community shows or the shows that are on campus continuously are rising like everything else. So a lot of the sponsorship goes towards that and is used towards that, but it's also the sound production team and the photography, videography, and like the production side of it as well. So it's a combination of the everything that is needed in order to put those shows on. Like every show needs a sound system and a sound engineer, and then we record all of them. Last year we did videography for all of them, also with professional sound. And we post all those on our YouTube channel so that we can reach more people who aren't able to come out for the shows and see those after, and they kind of live there archivally after, as well as, you know, the ticketing companies and things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, is there a proposal from anybody for an amount?
I would make a motion that for the city of Troutdale to be a sponsor for the 2025 Mount Hood Jazz Festival in the amount of $7,500.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that? 7,500. All right, how would we want to phrase this so it's correct, or is that sufficient?
That's
Jeffrey's
sufficient.
motion sounded clear enough to me. All right, we have a motion and a second. Yes, Glenn?
I would like to propose a friendly amendment, making the amount 5,000, the original amount that you guys originally asked us for. And, you know, I say that because, you know, one is, it's not actually in Troutdale, but, you know, we struggle with our own events, and that at 5,000, that's more than we give any other, of any of our events in our own city, so I figure it's better than nothing. It's still a lot of money. And we are facing a lot of tight budget this year.
Yeah.
With police and fire.
Would the mover and seconder be willing to entertain the friendly amendment to the motion? I'm seeing no. No. All right. Well, I mean, it would be necessary for us to vote on the amendment to make it 5,000 instead of 7,500. Carol?
So, since I'm new to this, how does it work on our budget? So, because we don't have it in our budget for the regular 5,000 that we've given, I'm assuming? Ray?
Ray, did we have 5,000 in 2023?
No, we've never had it in the budget because we don't know when we create the budget if they'll ask for money for the next year, if there'll be a jazz festival the next year, and how much they'll want to contribute. So we have several budget line items that allow for community events. And if you approve the amount, then it's staff's requirement to find the proper account. Then come June, when you do the budget adjustments, this is one that's put in there where it says this particular 5,000 or $7,500 was added to the, they'll just say community events budget, whatever the number is. So we make it official. We need your motion here now to approve the expense, but then when you do the budget modification motion in June, it actually lays it into the proper line item.
Could I would have to say, I teach at the high school. Music can turn kids around. It just does. And even though I teach special ed kids, when we have music coming to our school, my kids go. And it just is amazing what it does to my students. And to me, 7,500, if it changes one kid, it's worth every penny. And so I really am in favor of the 7,500.
The original motion. Now, if there isn't a second, the motion to amend will die, and we'll go back to the original motion. So does anyone else wish to second the, I'm taking it's a motion to amend the original motion, and hearing no one. So we are back to the original motion, which is a motion to approve 7,500. And before we vote, traditionally, I will ask for public comment in case we have any. So, so the motion before us is to approve a donation toward the Mount Hood Jazz Festival for 2025 of $7,500. It's been moved and seconded, but we haven't voted yet. So I invite anyone on Zoom to address the council on this matter. Seeing no one, anyone in the council chambers here who would wish to address the council? All right, then the motion is before us. Kenda, go ahead and call the roll.
Councilor White,
No.
Councilor Davidson,
Yes.
Councilor Laney,
Yes.
Councilor Allen,
Yes.
Councilor One,
Yes?
Mayor Whitman.
Yes. You have your answer.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
And
it.
we look forward to the whole thing, really.
Yes.
It's been
Thank
I
you.
remember it from years ago, what a big deal that Jazz Festival was, and I'm glad it's coming back.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Should I
Appreciate it.
say, Ray, is it something that we can get into the champion of the events that are gonna be in Troutdale now for the Jazz Festival? Or is it automatic, is it
Yeah,
gonna go
the
in?
champion is in the final edits right now. I know it'll be finalized on Monday. I will ask Kelly Graham, who's our editor,
Yeah,
if she can put a blurb in there somewhere that simply says
it'll be
something to the
for-
extent that the city of Troutdale is a proud sponsor of the Mountain Festival Jazz on these dates, and maybe put the web link there.
okay.
Oh, the dates are April 25th, 26th, 27th.
Issue would have to go in there.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I will email that.
Okay, yeah,
Right.
just, that'd be
Now.
good, and get it out. People show up, so, awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
There's probably a fee for putting it in the chamber.
Yeah, we'll take it out of the 75. It's about $7,499. Oh, well.
All right. Well, moving along, we'll go on to 6.1, an update from Mount Hood Community College on an upcoming bond measure.
And I've got some bond info flyers I'm gonna hand out as well too. Well, good evening, Mayor Ripma and fellow Troutdale City Council members. My name is John Hamlin. I'm Vice President of Student Development over at Mount Hood Community College. I'm joined tonight by two of our members of the Friends of Mount Hood Community College Bond Pack, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Dan Melaneric, I'm Corporate Vice President of Operations for Microchip in Gresham. I'm also the President of the Mount Hood Community College Foundation Board and co-chair of the PAC for this bond measure.
And I'm Dana Stroud. I'm an elected official on the Board of Education for Mount Hood. I'm also on the Head Start Policy Council for the college. So last spring, we came by and presented to you about the board and how we were considering taking action on putting a bond out to the community to vote to support the school financially. Since we first did that presentation to you, since that time, we've done 67 in-person events over the last 9 months so that we could connect with individuals and see how they were feeling about the school and about further supporting workforce with our educational opportunities. We realized the need to share that the Mount Hood bond is not just a financial measure. It's a commitment to strengthening our local economy, expanding opportunities for education for everybody, and ensuring that all of our residents have access to high-quality facilities and services. And during one of our very recent board meetings, we unanimously voted, yes, we are ready to move forward with the May ballot and request $136 million to support the school.
So why does this bond matter? MHCC serves as a cornerstone of education, workforce development, and community engagement, as you just voted and approved some funding for the Mountain Jazz Festival tonight. With enrollment increasing and our infrastructure aging, our ability to provide quality education and career training is at risk. As a reminder, this bond will allow us to upgrade and modernize classroom and facilities, ensuring students have access to modern learning environments, expand career and technical education programs, directly aligning with local industry needs and preparing a skilled workforce, improving campus safety and accessibility, creating an environment where all students, employees, and community members thrive, and to invest in sustainable and cost-effective infrastructure improvements, reducing long-term operational costs, increasing efficiencies, and improving environmental responsibility.
You were asking about economic development impact. The community college has an economic development impact of more than $350 million a year to the local community. This bond was designed to focus on the essentials. It's estimated to cost 25 cents per $1,000 of assessed value, or about $5 a month, for the average homeowner. It also brings about that positive economic and community impact. Supporting this bond is an investment in our local community. Mount Hood Community College produces skilled graduates who contribute to our businesses, hospitals, and public services. For example, last year we graduated 236 healthcare workers. 66 of those are nurses, 27 cybersecurity specialists, 18 automotive technicians, 47 childcare workers, to name a few.
By reinvesting in the initial $12 million that it took to build this campus, for the first time passing a bond, it would be massive for us. We'd be able to strengthen our programs and close critical labor gaps that a lot of our local businesses are struggling through. In fact, Mount Hood Community College is the main educational conduit for people that live in Troutdale. We have 16 different unions that provide immediately well-paying jobs for people that live here in Troutdale and all the way to Hood River and out to 205. So we know that our impact of $350 million annually that is brought back into the area through all of the jobs that are created and the salaries for staff who work there, it really matters. The projects that would be funded by this bond will create local construction jobs, generate more economic activity, and enhance the property values here in Troutdale. This is an opportunity to leverage the public investment for long-term growth and sustainability. In a lot of ways, it's about protecting the initial investment that community already put forward when we decided to build the college in the first place. We recognize the importance of fiscal responsibility, and we've won awards for our fiscal transparency. This bond has been carefully structured to maximize the community benefit and minimize the taxpayer burden. Strong financial oversight and accountability measures are already in place to ensure that funds are used efficiently and effectively. Also, with this bond, we're going to do zero new construction. We're just making sure that things are safe and that our students will have what they need in order to have a quality education.
As a local workforce partner with Mount Hood Community College, Microchip is officially supporting this measure also. As a community member, I also am supporting it and advocate it as a strong local community college protects and supports local industry. And as I mentioned, I represent the semiconductor industry here in East County. And I don't think I have to tell you that there's a couple of significant semiconductor companies not too far from where you're located and have a big impact on the local area. And then, of course, a large number in the Portland metro area. And Oregon has made it a priority to support those with the CHIPS Act. The big question is, where do we get the workers? And we really couldn't find them as we went out to look for them, even competing with other people. The solution was to develop a pipeline of our own, and we did that in conjunction with Mount Hood Community College Mechatronics program. And so I just use that as one good example of a community college corporate partnership that's providing opportunities for local residents to take prepaid classes where the tuition, books, and fees are paid by Microchip for students who are in those programs. And so again, I urge you to support this bond because it's good for Mount Hood Community College, it's good for local businesses, it's good for the local community.
So the PAC's goal is to have the support of all of the local city councils. We've made sure that we're doing the rounds to everybody, and we're formally asking you today if you will please publicly endorse our bond. We respectfully ask for your support by encouraging your constituents to invest in the future of Troutdale. By voting in favor of the bond, we're ensuring that education is accessible for all the people that live in Troutdale. Our workforce would remain competitive and the community would remain strong. Thank you for your time and your commitment to the residents of Troutdale. we welcome any questions that you may have, and we appreciate the leadership that all of you take in order to support community. I'm going to leave the JCVP forms in order to formally endorse the bond with your city manager here, if you decide to do so. And I put my number on the top there of the form so that you can make sure that we can connect should you decide to sign. Thank you.
All right,
When do you need a decision by?
Within 1 month, March 25th, I think is technically the date we're aiming for.
Okay, Mayor, I would suggest that we put on the agenda for February 25th or March 11th.
all right, well, sure, we could
If you want
put it
to.
on the agenda. So we're not gonna
But
vote.
but each of you can individually endorse the bond measure without discussion with the rest of council.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you could take a vote and
Right.
have one person do it, and then officially the whole
Right.
city council would together support.
Well, all right, I think let's plan to bring it back at the next council meeting, if there's room on the agenda for it, which I would think there is, but I invite comment now from anybody who wishes to ask questions or make comment on this matter. Carol?
I, for one, got my 2 degrees at Mount Hood Community College. And I was able to do that because it was in Troutdale. I didn't have to drive to Portland. And I think this is a worthy establishment to support.
And I always have voted for your bond measures because I think Mount Hood Community College is a huge asset to Troutdale and our livability, and it's a wonderful facility. And unfortunately, the bond measures have not been successful, but it's a tough sell, and everybody's asking for money right now. But I intend to support this one too. I tell you, let me just open it up to public comment. If someone on Zoom wishes to ask a question or make a comment on this matter, please do. Now's the time. Not seeing anyone, I'll invite anyone in the room who wishes to address the council on this matter. We're going to take it up for a vote at the next council meeting, but we'll formally, we'll have some sort of resolution to endorse.
Dave, can I say something?
Yes, of course, go ahead.
I appreciate you guys being here and letting us know and informing us of this. I also went to Mount Hood Community College because it was in my backyard, and I was able to physically be responsible and go there for 3 years while I tried to decide what I wanted to do. And I was able to play baseball and had really good experiences there. And I think it's a good part of this community. I just want to tell you, my only hesitancy with signing up right now to support you guys is that we have a lot of asks of our own citizens for our own budgetary needs. And, we have some time to think about it or whatnot. And I just want to we have to be really mindful of our own needs, I think, first. And so supporting you guys is something that I would vote for personally. I have the means to do that, but not everybody in our city, and we have our own asks. So just as a heads up, I think we have a lot of our own asks, and just be mindful. We're being mindful of that. Absolutely.
Could I make one comment?
Of course.
Just as a thought, one of the things, I have been an Oregon resident for 5 years only, came in here from Colorado. I've been involved with some of the community college funding requests at the state legislature, and I've been surprised, at the limited amount of funding that the state provides the community colleges. And so that has been a surprise to me. It's a surprise to me that the state provides no capital funds, for capital improvements, and there hasn't been a bond measure that passed in 50 years since the college was founded. I hear what you're saying, and you have many things to consider. I just ask you to consider those things, that the campus facility that plays such a role here needs some refreshing, and this bond provides some of the opportunity to do that.
Seismic upgrades, importantly. I would tack on to that also, that part of the squeeze, the financial squeeze that the college experiences is related to the board's very firm position on wanting to make sure that tuition is accessible. And by trying to keep that cost as low as physically possible in order to keep things running. Because we think that that educational conduit is so critical for people to be able to achieve their goals.
Well, thank you. Yes, Ray.
I was gonna say, I may have missed it, but on the handout, nowhere does it say, what does that $5 per average homeowner per month get us in terms of overall dollars? What's the total amount of the bond?
136.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't on the card.
I have a question.
Yes, John?
Aren't you on the product of Mount Community College? Way I remember but I do have a question about your numbers. So what you're saying is the average home in our area is $240,000, right? That's what it pencils out to.
I didn't do the math on that part, so.
Well, it's 25 cents per thousand for 60, so if you go 4 times 60.
Yeah, we had some consultants do the math for us.
And it's throughout the entire district of the college, which extends all the way up to government camp and all the way out to 205 and.
9 school districts, I think,
Right.
average.
But a lot of people are going to be paying several times that. And then you also said that this bond is actually going to increase the value of my property. So that means that my $60 a year potentially is going to go up because I voted in the bond. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Well, as you know, in Oregon, it can only go up a little bit each time. Well, I agree with Councilor One that we have a lot of demands on our citizens we're going to be making, or going to have to make soon. But if possible, if you can afford it, this is a very worthy cause and very good for Troutdale. So I wish you well. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Unless there's
Thank
anything
you.
else.
Appreciate your service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to 7.1, an ordinance. Dakota.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me this evening. I will share my presentation. Alrighty. So my name is Dakota Meyer. I am the Associate Planner here with the City of Troutdale. Tonight I will be presenting the staff report for the proposed text amendment to the commercial and industrial zoning districts under Chapter 3 of the Troutdale Development Code. These amendments are under case file number 75-17. It's taken, sorry, it's a little laggy. There's one primary request with this amendment, and that is changing marijuana facilities, the use of marijuana facilities in the general commercial, light industrial, and general industrial zones from not permitted to conditional use. Here's a map that shows the areas that will be affected. So in red, those are our general commercial zones. In light gray, those are our light industrial zones. And then in dark gray, that's our general industrial zones. The changes in response to the denial of ballot measure 26-248 back in November 5th. The citizens voted no on the ballot measure, which was to prohibit further marijuana facilities within the city of Troutdale. So this amendment is in direct response to the ballot measure being voted down. by the citizens. So now we are bringing our development code, we're basically reversing it from what we did a couple years ago and bringing it back into conformance with what was recently passed, or what didn't pass. Here is a screenshot or a snippet of the proposed amendments. All of the amendments are within Chapter 3 of the Development Code. Specifically, Section 3.320, land use tables for commercial zoning districts. 3.325, additional requirements. And then 3.420, land use tables for the industrial zoning districts. I'll have a slide here in a second, but it will show that we're changing from an N for not permitted to a C for conditional use. So here is the slide that depicts that. You'll see right here in red, we're going from an N to a C, and then also right here, an N to a C, and for the general commercial. That's the only thing that's changing as far as the land use tables go. At the January 8th Planning Commission meeting, Planning Commission discussed the amendments and proposed an additional amendment to 3.325, additional requirements, specifically 3.325A, additional requirements for marijuana facilities within the commercial zoning district. The added language is to ensure that community colleges and other institutions where students receive academic credits fall within the public and private school umbrella. Previously, here in red is what is being added. Previously, it did not incorporate community colleges specifically, and Planning Commission wanted to see that be called out in a more specific manner. The proposed findings for this code amendment, they are the following. The proposed change to the development code does not conflict with the applicable comprehensive land use plan goals or policies. The proposed change is consistent with the applicable statewide planning goals. The proposed change is consistent with the applicable provisions of Metro Code. Public need is best satisfied by this particular change. The change will not adversely affect the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Both staff and Planning Commission find that these criteria are met. The procedure for this, procedure we will use to consider this type 4 land use application is for the Planning Commission's recommendation to council. At the public hearing on January 8th, Planning Commission recommended approval of the text amendment to City Council. City Council is the decision-making entity, and we noticed the application as required by code. The action we asked City Council to take is to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation, which is the approval of the proposed code amendment at 2 public hearings. This evening's public hearing, February 11th, 2025, for the ordinance introduction, and then March 11th, 2025, for ordinance adoption. The actions to take on March 11th are to confirm, amend, or reverse the Planning Commission's recommendation, enact or defeat all or part of the ordinance, or remand some or all of the proposal back to the Planning Commission. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Just, on the order where, this isn't the first reading, this is.
This is the first reading, yeah.
And.
Introduction.
And it would be, at the next council meeting would be the second reading. Is that right? Am I?
Yeah, second reading is on March 11th, which would be for the adoption. This is the first reading for the introduction.
All right. I thought we had another council meeting in February.
Yes, February 25th.
But we're not doing the second reading there. We're waiting till March.
Yeah, that was, I think, just for timing wise, if we could move it up. There is not a.
No, it just confused me, that's all.
Oh, no worries.
I'm perfectly okay waiting until March 11th, but
And we could get it out by next week. Unless the agenda is really good.
We have it on the agenda for the 25th.
Oh, do we? Okay.
Yeah, we're currently on
So
that.
so March 11th, we might be able to do the second reading on March 11th, or excuse me,
On February 25th, yes.
February 25th. Okay, very good.
That was a mistake on my
That
part.
was a clarification. All right, any questions from the council?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Doug.
Oh, you know, what got us in this mess was the scribers error. So my question is, has the planning commission had a chance to see the final draft before it came to us?
I did not send it back to the planning commission. There were edits that were made and we made those edits based on the discussion and what was asked specifically to be added. But I did not send this back to them to review prior.
Is there time to do that before we see it again, just as a precaution?
As far as a planning commission meeting, I can bring it up tomorrow for them to review it. We do have a planning commission tomorrow evening, so.
I just want to learn from our mistakes.
The chair did call me to ask about it. He read it to me and I looked at it and it does exactly what it's supposed to do.
Okay,
So I'm not sure you have to. It was checked around the horn a couple of times.
That was my question, I just wanted to make sure it shored up that language that got us into the whole pickle in the first place.
Yeah.
That was the
Somehow that got
intent of
admitted or
adding
whatever, right?
the language,
Okay,
yeah.
that's all, that was my question, thank you.
Can I ask a clarifying question? You're talking about schools, but you said that the college wasn't considered. Can I ask why? Because there is the childcare center that's there. There are middle college programs there for the local high school students that attend college as well that are under 18. I'm just curious.
Within the development code, schools didn't clarify college. In this, hold on, if you give me 1 second, I can pull it up. I'll pull up our development code.
Before I that up, I'll give you a little history on this. So this came before planning, before when Khalifa decided they wanted to go and buy Safeway up here. And we got into this discussion about community college and preschool and everything. And we made a decision that basically is the verbiage that's in there describing it. They appealed, it came to city council. City council stood behind planning commission. They appealed it to the state land use board of appeals. And the state stood behind both parties that the community college was a public institution, with underage students and stuff. And so they could not have a dispensary within 1,000 feet of Mountain Community College.
And this proposed ordinance specifically calls out
So this.
community college or other institution where students under the age of 18 receive instruction as a school within the meaning of it. So this fixes.
Okay, so it fixes.
So, because our definition for school in our development code does call out colleges, it says including the accredited colleges and universities, but with the original application being, going to LUBA for appeal, and then having, ultimately upheld by LUBA, there was just wanted to be a little more clarification that the community college, because there are students that are under the age of 21, that attend, whether it's high school or then, as you had mentioned, like daycare programs and things of that nature, they wanted to make sure that that was wrapped into this, because the language that's originally in the code now in that section for additional, that's straight from the state guidelines. That's what most cities had done when they adopted the marijuana facilities ordinances after it was approved statewide. So this is just kind of adding a little bit more clarification to that section. Thank you.
If I can throw on that, because I had to argue that thing. That LUBA is, they were saying that the definition of the word school was taken directly, it was copied out of the state statutes. So they wanted to read it the way the state interpreted it. And the state interpretations are goofy as all get out, and they never really answered the question. So this takes it out of the hands of the state, because the Khalifa folks said that they were going to get the state to change the regulations to specifically exempt community colleges. So this takes it out of the state statute and says that it's now in the city's code as a reasonable time, place, and manner regulation, which is allowed. And so it says, no, Troutdale, even if the state changes their code, Troutdale has defined the term school in a way that is allowed under a time, place, and manner regulation. Okay, so this really nails it down.
And
they did a good job with it.
Thank you to Chair Stephenson for helping with that. And during the planning commission meeting, we discussed this a lot about where it should go. There was initial discussion about should it go underneath our definitions, and then we don't have to change that at all. It was determined that this is the best location to put it, and we can have it written in there as it's written per this chapter. That way we don't change the definition if someone wants to put a school in another location. We're not changing that definition. It's just for this specific purpose is what we really wanted it to be used for. And that's why we added the language to that, where our regular definition for school is still there. There's still availability for that. It's not as refined, but for the purposes of marijuana facility, it's more refined and where you're allowed to place them and what's considered a school for that purpose.
Thank you.
Yes, Glenn.
Yeah, I just want to compliment your staff and the planning commission and Ed Trumke on how you handled this situation. Well, you won, Luba, that's pretty impressive, but, I think this is a good way forward. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Anything else from the council? This is an ordinance. I guess we have a public hearing at this time. So I will open a public hearing and invite anyone of the public on Zoom to address the council.
Mayor Rittman, Paul Wilcox, Troutdale.
Yes, Paul?
Okay. First I want to say I am a member of the Planning Commission, but some of what's come before council tonight, I haven't seen previously. So that's mostly what I'll be commenting on. I did make some corrections to their findings of fact. Or got some language that was pretty far off, actually. So the findings of facts look fine to me, but just want to cover some other things here that don't quite jive with me. Okay, I'll go ahead and get into it. All the following are what I consider corrections to the staff report and ordinance as presented. I don't know if you want to follow along or not, but you'll have a chance to look at this later. On page 2, paragraph beginning on May 24, 2023, reads 822 instead of 882 for the ordinance number. Paragraph beginning in November 2024, 7517, marijuana facilities will revert the development code language back to how it was written prior to the passing of case file number 7514 and bring the development code into alignment with local ballot measure 2638. Okay, what I want to emphasize is into alignment with 26248 would prohibit additional marijuana facilities, which is exactly the opposite. On the ordinance page, it starts out an ordinance adopting, ordinance, in that three-word phrase, an ordinance adopting, ordinance is misspelled, which I think is kind of careless. Ordinance number 894, which was a similar adjustment, ordinance was also misspelled. Under point number 3, to allow for marijuana facilities through a conditional use process instead of prohibiting the use outright in the general commercial light industrial and general industrial districts brings the Troutdale Development Code into conformance with local ballot measure 26248 that failed November 5th, 2024. again, into conformance with 26248 would prohibit additional marijuana facilities. So there's those two very poorly worded statements. And I had a couple of follow-up questions. From a legal standpoint, should ordinance 882 be rescinded? And my second question was, who will be responsible for notifying OLCC that Troutdale will again be eligible for shared for shared tax revenues? That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Do you care to address that?
The spelling errors and all, yeah, those can all be adopted. But should 882 be rescinded? Under the way the statute is written, it no longer has any effect. So at this point in time, you could rescind it. That would be a clean way to do it. The other way to do it is to have the city recorder notify the folks at the municipal code, muni code people, I've forgotten their name, who actually take all of the ordinances and put them into the code sections. Do you remember their name on the website? We just have to tell them to take those pieces off because they're no longer in effect. Okay, and if you want clarification on that, I'd be happy to, although I had a great time throwing all that stuff into the recycling bin a while ago.
Yeah, well, okay, I think when it comes back, we could have the spelling and typographical errors corrected.
Yes.
Paul, if you would share your typographical errors and spelling errors with the city recorder, we'll bring it back corrected with those matters. As far as rescinding, Ed, if you think it's necessary, we could rescind, but it sounded like it could be done without, so.
Yeah, I think we can do it because the statute says that it's not effective if it didn't get adopted by the people. So it didn't get adopted, so it's no longer effective.
All right, anyone else on Zoom who wishes to address the council on this during this public hearing? Seeing no one, anyone in council chambers? This is a public hearing on an ordinance, first reading. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, and we aren't voting. This is a first reading, so this will come back to us at the next council meeting. And with that, we'll move on to staff. Thank you, Dakota, appreciate it. Staff communications, Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. Number one, our new representative at Congress, Maxine Dexter, is having a controlled access public swearing in, which is kind of odd. And so I'm going to hand out to the council the invitation. If you want to attend on February 20th, the email address to let them know who you are and you'd like to get RSVP into them, because they are not releasing the location until you've RSVP'd and they know who's coming. So if you want to attend, feel free to use that email address on the bottom of this form and let them know you'll be there so they can give you the address where to show up. That's number one. Number two, Mayor, is that Monday, of course, we are closed as city offices to celebrate President's Day this Monday. Number three, I wanted to just kind of give you a follow-up. If you recall, about 5 years ago, the council and the budget committee approved an electronic media specialist who is our employee who oversees all of our website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that stuff to keep information flowing through how most of Troutdalians get their information. And I just want to let you know, an indication of the success of that position is that when Kevin Mooney took that spot in 5 years ago, we had only 2,500 followers on Facebook. A follower is somebody who is interested in getting information about everything we post on our Facebook page. As of this month, we have exceeded 8,000 followers on Facebook. And so that's an indication that people are interested in Troutdale and that Kevin is posting interesting things for people to observe. So I just want to let you know that I believe has been a real success in communicating to our citizens about what's going on in Troutdale and to let the world know, because it's accessible to people in a village in China if they want to learn about Troutdale. So that's been a real success. The final thing, Mayor, is I wanted to give the council a quick update on the status of the fire contract. As the mayor knows, and Councilor One and Alan know, Ray could talk for a couple hours about the issues and the process and the frustrations. And I just want to give you a quick overview for those who were not at the meeting last night, the Public Safety Working Group, or of course, all of you except the mayor who were not at the meeting yesterday afternoon over at Gresham City Hall. Yesterday afternoon at Gresham City Hall, Mayor Rittman, myself, and the mayors of Fairview, Wood Village, and Gresham, and the city managers, the eight of us met over at Gresham for a meeting. Because the city managers have been working through for months this fire contract, and we thought it would be best for the mayors to sit down and talk face to face, since they're the elected representatives of their cities and they're part of the council that have to approve any contract. Just to try to keep it in a nutshell, first of all, if you want to know the issues we're struggling with, check the packet out from last night's meeting at the Public Safety Working Group, where I attached a letter, which was a letter I sent to Gresham City Manager and Mayor last week, and that Mayor Rittman provided to the other two mayors in East County, if you want to know in a quote nutshell where we're at. Just so you'll know, the most important thing to understand is that Gresham is pursuing a methodology to charge us that is significantly different than the 30 years of contracts have been based upon in terms of how the three cities are charged. Traditionally, over the years, the three cities have paid the exact, hopefully it was created when they did the base rate at the beginning of each 10-year contract, what it cost Gresham to add service to our areas. It wasn't that we were equal partners, it wasn't that we were sharing in the total cost of the Gresham Fire Department, because there are a number of costs the Gresham Fire Department would have whether they covered us or not. And so all of the councils and all the city managers for the last 30 years, we've all thought it was reasonable that we just pay the increased cost. That usually worked out to anywhere between 60 to 80% of what a Gresham residents might pay for the service. And of course, the reasons that was so is because we were simply paying what burden we were to the city of Gresham. And we were paying a little bit less because we had no control over the department. And three, we were paying a little bit less because whether it actually matters in terms of life or property, you don't know, but we always get slower response times, not because there's anything wrong with the service, it's just the location of the fire stations are gravitated toward the city of Gresham since it's their fire department. So for all those reasons, traditionally, that's been that way for 30 years. Well, Gresham over the years has gone through struggles to afford to pay for their fire police, the same thing that almost every city in Oregon has gone through. And they have gone through a process of struggling and asking their citizens to pay more through utility fees and a local option levy that was passed last spring. And they're going, their premise now is that the three cities, Troutdale, Wood Village, and Fairview, need to share the pain of their citizens, of what the Gresham residents have to pay now for those services. And Gresham, just from my point of view, are operating under some wrong assumptions. They will say that we've been subsidized by them for all these years, which is factually not correct, because we've paid exactly what our burden has been over the years. Second of all, they believe that we're equal partners and should pay equally. And we're really not, because as I pointed out yesterday in the letter, you'll see, nobody asked us when they hired the last fire chief. Nobody asked us when they approved the last budget for the fire department. I mean, we're customers, not partners with them. Be that as it may, they get to decide how they want to charge us. And so they have decided that starting in the new contract on July 1, they will charge us at a population-based per capita rate that is roughly the exact same as Gresham residents pay. This means that when they first told us that they were going to change the rules of the game, it was last fall, and at that time they told us it would cost Troutdale $4.3 million a year for the fire service. We are currently paying $2.8 million in our budget, a huge increase. Well, after the meeting yesterday and what we've been talking about among city managers, it became very clear to Mayor Stovall and City Manager Schmidt at Gresham that the three cities uniformly need time to absorb this huge increased cost. Gresham has been working for years at increasing their income through utility fees and local option levies, and not once during that time did they ever come to us and say, we're going to change the rules of the game next time and you're going to have to raise more money to pay us. So we've had no ramp up time to be able to handle this. And so the negotiations are set up at such a point now that the three cities are each supposed to put together a letter that one, hopefully agrees on what the ramp up period would be, but explains individually by the three cities why they need that ramp up period and a time to increase their income to meet the increased requests from the city of Gresham. And then Mayor Stovall said he would take that information to his council and present it to them for discussion. That's where we sit today. Within the next 2 weeks, the three cities will put together their each separate uniform requests of what they would like to do on their next contract. I will say next year, we're probably going to be paying somewhere between $3.7 to $3.7 million. They've already acknowledged that they would give us a 1 year break-in. We're trying to think that it's going to take us longer because local option levies takes years to approve. It's going to take us time for our citizens to be asked whether they want to be able to give more for the current service. So that's the process we're in right now. Mayor Ripma was there throughout the hour and a half yesterday. Mayor, anything you want to add to what I presented?
No, I think
Okay.
it was bad news.
Yeah. So anyway.
Disappointing.
Yeah, that's right. If you get the packet for the public safety working group, there's also the last letter to the sheriff's office expressing our questions about, we have a lot of questions that have been unanswered. I emailed them last night at the end of the meeting. I got a response from the business office at Multnomah County Sheriff today. They said they want to be able to get their response to us by this Friday of our list. I'm hopeful that it will be a complete response because I asked to get it back by the 24th, which is a Monday when I'll be back from vacation. But if it shows up Friday or Monday or next Tuesday, my computer is with me. I'm going to forward it on to everybody so you'll know what they said in response, and so you can start digesting it before I get back. So that's kind of the status of the sheriff's office.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll go on to council communications. Glenn?
Yeah, after all that, I think when we first started this process, I was talking that we need to have a viable option, an alternative, so hopefully there's still time for us to look at that. That's the only leverage we have in negotiating this deal. And I saw, there was an article about the old city hall, and I think they were taking some commentary that came up at the CAC meeting. I just want to make sure that the next steps in City Hall, that it comes through council, so we know what's going on. That's all I have.
Jesse?
Yeah.
All right. John?
Let me see. Going to the memorial service for Terry on Thursday as a longtime friend and a representative of the city. Just thankful for the difference he made in Troutdale.
That's Terry Tipsword, for anyone who doesn't know, recently passed away.
Yeah, he was strategic in Imagination Station, in Summerfest, in the development of Troutdale. I worked with him when I was working with the Chamber of Commerce. He did publish slogans. Went to church with him. So,
thanks, John. Carol?
Ray, thanks for that clarification regarding fire. I just wanted, it's important to me that our citizens know what we're up against. I am really concerned and frustrated that if they're wanting us to pay such a huge increase, that we don't have a say at the table. And I'm wondering, is there any way to negotiate that? Because that's a high increase and then have no say, because we've never had say. And why can't we try to change that around?
Just to answer that specific question, we have pushed back on that. They offered last fall, right now, Councilor White and I are on the 4 cities user group, which generally means we go and sit down with the fire chief and their people every other month, and they basically give us a report on what's happening, which is great, which is wonderful, but it's not a meaningful input into what they're doing. They have offered a kind of a different model under the new contract where there's some type of user group that actually gets to give input into decisions they're making, which is wonderful. It's a great gesture, but in reality, it's meaningless. The Gresham City Council is never going to give any meaningful input from the 3 cities into the fire department. The budget, the union contracts, the hiring and firing of the chiefs, Gresham's just not going to give us really any meaningful input. They just won't. Not because they don't like us, it's just because it's their fire department. So we'll continue to work on that thing. What I've suggested before, again, I'm now start rambling, is that we've suggested that when you hire a fire chief, can we at least be on one of the committees that interviews and gives a recommendation before the city manager makes a decision? I mean, some touch points like that would be nice, as you know, as they all say, throw us a bone. So that will still be part of the discussion. So yeah, I agree. That's something that we have talked to them about. How would that look in reality, knowing that the Gresham Council wants to have the final say, and which is fine. It's their fire department. I get that. So.
Other than that, it was a good meeting. I enjoyed meeting new people and listening to what's happening in our city. Thank you.
Jeffrey?
I always have something to say. I gotta say something. Keep with tradition. I'll just welcome Zach to the council. This next one, I think he dropped off, but he probably is gonna come back and watch this 100 times. So I'm sure that he's gonna listen to it. And I echo what Carol had to say about our safety working group. I think that the increased cost is, I realized there was going to be an increased cost. I think that that's just where we're at in today's day and age. I can accept that. I think what we need to work hard on is getting language in the contract that, one, holds them accountable for something and gets us some sort of visibility within that department that we have something. We have a voice, we have some sort of a set of eyes within the fire that just kind of represents the city. And I only think that that's fair. And I will push hard to attempt to make that happen. We're really in between a rock and a hard place. Like Mayor Rittman said, it's very disappointing to kind of hear. I feel like that not being very good partners and not being very good listeners. Ray wrote a very well-worded letter to them that explained everything and our positioning. That makes perfect sense to me. But again, I guess that they can do whatever they want. So, and then on the police side, I think that we decided we needed a lot of information, a lot of numbers back from the county. And so we are gonna get that. We'll dive through that. And as the small group, I think we'll be able to give a proposal back that proposal will meet the needs of the citizens of Troutdale. And on the flip side of that, I think, again, language within the police contract to hold them accountable, to me, is key. If I'm gonna be paying for something, I wanna make sure that I'm getting what we're paying for, and that there is accountability within that for that service. So that's just something I'm committed to pushing for as we do these negotiations. So other than that, it's cold out, so bundle up.
Certainly is. One of the things I am tasked with is appointing some of our councilors to the various regional outside committees that, where they represent Troutdale on various subjects. And I have received, these are consensual appointments. I checked with the person appointed in each case, and they were willing. So the East Multnomah County Transportation Committee, Amuktuk, John Lamy has agreed to take that on, and I served like 10 years on that. And it's important. It deals with our, the small crumbs of road money we end up getting out here. At least it helps determine where it gets spent. The Regional Disaster Prep Organization, Carol Ellen has agreed to take that one on, and that's kind of a new one. I don't know a whole lot about it, but she will represent us. And the Regional Water Providers Consortium, RWPC, Jeffrey One has agreed to take that on. That is staffed by David Schaefer of our Public Works Department, and the elected representative will be Councilor One. And thank you for agreeing to do that. I'll be calling you. There's a couple more that I need to fill, but those are filled. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned.